Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of BOATT. It's Bob's On-Air Tech Talk with Tech Dissected. Here, as usual, I've got my buddies Chuck Haines. Everybody say, hey, Chuck.
Hey, all.
And also back from the dead is Fred Scholl. Haven't seen him in a while. How you doing, Fred?
Great. Good to be back on the boat.
Excellent, excellent. Well, we do this every week at 8:08. Bob says start when the clock says Bob. No gimmicks, no giveaways, no guests this week. Just the three of us talking and chatting, and a little bit about what's going on in tech in the tech world in general. So come along on the boat. Let's take a ride and let's see what's going on. So what's going on for you guys? Chuck, I know you got a bunch of stuff going on. Fred, I know you got a bunch of stuff to catch us up on. So let's talk. What's up?
Well, I don't know. Let's start off with an easy one. So I saw this week that apparently Verizon is, two things Verizon's doing in the news. I think one was actually last week and one was this week. Last week, I guess with the LG G3, Verizon is actually giving you the ability to uninstall a good bit of the bloatware that they put on there. Wow. Verizon is notorious for bundling a bunch of crap on the phones that they give you. And I think the Moto X is the only phone I've bought from them, probably due to space constraints, that didn't have a ton of extra crap on it. It actually didn't even have a lot of the normal Verizon apps. Well, I guess with the G3, they finally decided that non-Verizon apps that they bundle, so like the Amazon App Store, which God only knows why they actually even bundle that, but the Amazon App Store, the Amazon MP3, all the other crap that they bundle, I guess will actually now be uninstallable, which is really cool. I really, really hope that that's something that they're seriously considering, and every carrier is considering, because we just get too much crapware on the phones, and it really does. Those who don't know how to disable that stuff, it really does get on their nerves. Like my wife, she got the KitKat update for the S4. I don't know, it was probably a couple months ago, and she said the only thing this update did is just gave me more apps installed on the phone. So she's like, it doesn't do anything else for me. So why would I ever update my phone if you're just going to give me more apps that I don't care about? So I really do kind of hope that they are continuing on that trend. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I'm always all about just let me make that choice. I had the Galaxy Nexus on Verizon when I was on Verizon 7 years ago, whenever it was, a long time ago. And of course, being a Nexus thing, that was what excited me the most. I got into getting rid of stuff, and I'm a minimalist in general on my Droid X. So when that happened, I want to get rid of it. If you want to put it on the phone, I get it. That helps you pay for the phone and you get your monies and all that kind of stuff. But give me the option to get rid of it without having to like hack my phone or root my phone just to get rid of 600 things that nobody wants. A friend of mine, she's got or had a Galaxy S3. Same thing. There's 700 apps that she doesn't want, and every update just kind of borked her phone. Where all she really wants is the main stuff. She's on the Nexus now because she just likes the Google experience, but I say great. Do you know how that works? Is it, hold the app and throw it into uninstall like on the normal launcher, or do you have to do something weird?
Yeah, so generally the reason you can't uninstall an app versus the reason you can uninstall an app is due to where they actually put the app during installation. If they put it into system app, then usually you can't uninstall it. Whereas if they put it into, is it data app or something like that, which basically means it's a user installed app, then usually you can install it. So I think what they're doing is they're basically just moving the location they're putting those apps into so that they actually become uninstallable as opposed to just disabling them.
Yeah, disabling doesn't do anything for me. I want it gone.
Exactly. I don't even want it taking up the space. I don't want an update like re-enabling it. I don't want anything, to do with that.
Well, I think you have two perspectives on this, and of course, I think for the user, it's always going to be the same. For people like in this circle, so-called power users, you know what you want. You know what you want to do with the phone, and you want to be the one in control of it. And many of us do root them and flash new ROMs for just that reason, so that we can get it set up just the way we like. But for the average user, I think Chuck, what you described as your wife's experience, I think is really the common experience out there. People want a phone that is going to serve the purpose that they got it for, which for most people is make calls, send email, read email, send email, use the apps that they want to install. And, it's bad enough that computers come bundled with all the bloatware and crapware on them. When you got a device this big that you carry around in your pocket and it's got a limited amount of storage, nobody needs the bloat, especially when it starts taking up valuable system resources and not just storage. So, yeah, and we pay good, whether it's hidden in a subsidized price or not, we pay good money for these devices. So we do own them, not Verizon and the other carriers.
Yeah, good.
So people are entitled to control their own device.
It's a good point. Well, and most people, they just want the thing to work and be clean. I mean, I don't think anybody wants all that extra stuff. It's fine if it's there. And especially now that Android is kind of, the big boy, you've got a lot of old iPhone users that are coming over that are used to using whatever's on the phone. They don't want to go through all these file trees, and they don't want to go through even disabling an app. They just want it to be, let me just get rid of it. Let me hold it and throw it away. Hold it and throw it away. And they want it simple and easy, and, that's what got them to Android, so why not keep them there and make the user experience better for them. Of course, that's Verizon. They're really weird with all that kind of stuff. We're not sponsored by them, so I can say that right now.
You can say whatever you want.
Exactly. But if Verizon, if you'd like to sponsor us, I'd be more than happy to support your phone. But I mean, Verizon. That's why I left. They're expensive, or they were, and they want to hold too much control over my stuff, and that's just. It's a good reason for me to leave. Just honestly, me speaking of Alvie.
Yeah, they used to be expensive. Although I'll be honest with you, I actually think that I pay less for my bill than probably most people, except for T-Mobile. Now, T-Mobile's the cheapest by far, generally, but I think that I actually pay less than most people I know with AT&T and Sprint for two phones, with 4 gigs of data a month. So. For me, they're actually, well, I don't have any other choice in this area anyway, but they're not terribly expensive. But, Verizon certainly doesn't help it when it comes to the bloatware and things like that, but it's not only Verizon. Think about just a straight Google phone, okay, a Nexus phone, or even a Google Play Edition phone. How many Google apps come bundled in that? Let's take a look. You've got Gmail, Chrome, Google Play Books, Games, video. I mean, Google probably bundles 12 things themselves. So you got the 12 apps Google bundles on there, plus the 15 apps that Verizon's going to bundle on there. And now all of a sudden you got like 40 apps on there, and you haven't even done anything on the phone yet.
Well, and here's, I've talked about my parents' phone. They've got, they went to Walmart to get that $30, $45 plan. It was originally the $30 plan, which is unlimited data, unlimited text with 100 minutes. That wasn't good enough for that, so they bumped up to the Walmart $45 plan, and that's unlimited everything. And they've got, I've always tried to teach them get the best thing you can, because that's usually the better phone. And God bless them, they went and tried to get something without me helping them, and they got what looked to be a good phone. They said, "Here, check this out. Now that we've purchased it and opened it and used it and can't take it back, what do you think?" And it was a good phone. It's that LG L9 or something like that. It's the most expensive Walmart phone. If you ever go into Walmart, go look at it. It's cool, kind of a cool looking phone. It's got I think ice cream sandwich on it now, or jelly bean. Either way, but it's full of stuff, and you can't move anything to the SD card, and you can't get rid of the bloat, and it's just got a few T-Mobile apps, a few Walmart apps, and all that kind of stuff, and they can't use the phone because you can't move anything to the SD card. They can't uninstall anything, which also means they can't install anything. It's only got like 2 gigs of storage on the phone, and they can't. So they've got this 16 gig memory card in it that's just sitting there useless, and they can't access to it because they won't. There's no good path to upgrade to like KitKat or get it rooted because nobody develops for that phone, and they're just stuck on this $200 phone that they can't use. Cool phone. The phone is cool. The software on it's good. They just can't use it because they can't get to any of the stuff. and it's frustrating for them. They just want to use their phone, so and I hate it. And that's what ends up being, like what you're talking about with with all the Google apps, Verizon apps, and any of the other apps that are on there. And then they're stuck with 700 apps they can't get rid of, and 4 pages worth of stuff that they have to file through on their app drawer.
Well, while we're on the subject of complaining about Verizon, so Verizon used to have unlimited data. I don't know, most people probably know that. So when Verizon first rolled out LTE, for about the first, I don't know, maybe 6 months or a year that they had LTE out, they wanted people to buy these nice new fancy LTE phones, so they were offering unlimited data. And at the time, it was actually extremely cheap. I think that it was like $40, gave you unlimited data, like 1,000 minutes or something. Back then they still capped the minutes and the text messages. It was an awesome deal. So there has been a lot of people that have not upgraded their phones to Verizon's More Everything or Shared or whatever they call it these days. It's always something. They are always calling it something different. But anyway, they're current plans.
Yeah.
So people have been trying to keeping this unlimited data, and they've been buying full price phones. Well, Verizon's been trying to get these people to get off these unlimited plans because I'm sure that they lose money every time someone uses one of these unlimited plans. So first they tried to entice them with $60 a 10 gig plan. It should be more than you'll ever need. And some people bought it. Some people bought into it and said, okay. But there's still a ton of people that didn't. Well, now they finally come out and basically said, yeah, okay. You know what? All you unlimited users, we're tired of you not switching, so now we're just going to throttle you. So if you're in the top 5% of bandwidth users or something, it's the old Comcast trick.
Yeah.
Because
5% is huge for Verizon. I mean, that's a lot of people.
Well, yeah, I think it's per geographical area, though. I forget exactly how they're going to do it, and that could be a complete lie. I don't know. I'd have to go look at the article again. But, it's the old Comcast trick of if you use too much, they were going to start throttling you. But we're not going to put a hard limit on that number. So you really don't know from month to month whether you're on that top amount of users. So you might get throttled, you might get not. Yeah, who knows? Yeah, kind of a crappy move on Verizon's part. If you're going to throttle someone, at least put a number on it. Okay, fine. After 10 gigs, we're going to throttle you.
Yeah.
But I guess they can't technically do that because it's an unlimited plan.
Gotcha. Yeah, because they're calling it network optimization, aren't they? They're not calling it throttling.
Some crap, I'm sure they'll pull off, but
CZW jargon.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Comcast, but it's not just them. And by the way, I'm one of those Verizon unlimited data people, and they are just dying to get me off of unlimited data. And I'm about 95% of the way ready to pull the plug and make the jump to T-Mobile. Now that I found out that although I don't get much signal here at my house, I can do Wi-Fi calling, which kind of overcame the last concern. But I went back and did a live chat with somebody on Verizon's website the other day. Basically presented them with, hey, I'm looking to make a move. What are the early termination fees, and what can you guys do for me? And they kept me on this chat for well over an hour in the background. Yeah, I was doing this in the background while I was at work, going through numbers. And what they finally came up with, they said, look, best service in the world. We don't want to lose you. And, we understand there's a slight price difference, but let's see what we can do. And basically what they came up with is that by dropping down my family, doing a shared data plan, dropping my data from, right now I've got 4 people on 2 gigabytes and my unlimited. They said if we drop you down to 6 gigabytes of shared data, they added up all the numbers, and basically it worked out that I could save about $10 or $15 a month, which ain't much when I'm well over $300 a month already. And give me less. I said, you realize you just offered me less for about approximately the same price. and of course giving up the unlimited data, which they're itching to do. But you mentioned Comcast, and I had the same situation with Cablevision, Optimum Online, going back a few years, and I was doing at the time a lot of torrenting of primarily I'll say non-pirated materials, freely shareable music, but it was consuming lots and lots of data. I would always have multiple torrents going up and down, and you guys know how the technology works, so it was plenty of data, and apparently it's the upload that they're more concerned about than the download. And one fine day, I think I was supposed to have about somewhere between 3 and 5 megabits of upload speed. I suddenly find out that I'm way down, like below 100K. And I think I even called them and asked if I had been throttled. And I said, no, we don't know anything about that. Then it was a few days later that I got a call back from someone in their security department. And the issue here was breaching of my terms of service. I said, well, what terms of service did I breach? They said, well, you're running a server. I said, okay, am I not allowed to run a server? They said, no, you're allowed to run a server. They said, but you're serving up a lot of data. I said, okay, how much data can I serve up? Well, it's not a question of how much data you're serving up, but you're running it constantly. You had the server going all week, 7 days a week. I said, okay, well, how much time can I run it for? And they didn't have an answer to that one either. It was just, don't use it so much. We'll turn it back. We'll give you your bandwidth back, but don't use it so much. Well, how much can I use it? And they couldn't tell me how much time I could use it for. They couldn't tell me even the question of how much speed. Should I lower my upload speed? No, it wasn't that. So what I think it kind of comes down to from the stories that I've heard is that as they were expanding their networks, they overbooked dramatically, ended up with not enough bandwidth, and I think, as you said, the term they would use would be network optimization.
Yes.
You find the people that are consuming the most and punish them.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And my biggest problem is, like, if you're gonna cap me, fine. At least just tell me. Am I gonna like it? No. But at least I know a number. I had Comcast back when I lived in Virginia. Absolutely hated them. I think that them and Verizon are the top of my list for people I hate, because they constantly did the, oh, you're in the top 2%, so we're gonna throttle you or back you up. But it was never a hard number. 1 month it might have been a few hundred gigs. The next month it was 400 or 500 gigs. Where now I have Cox, who I think is the most awesome ISP in the world, because you actually talk, like, if I call someone, I talk to a real person like an hour away from me, not halfway across the world. But also, it's 500 gigabytes a month. I know it's 500 gigabytes a month. There's nothing hidden about it. It's You have 500 gigabytes a month. You can go to your web page and you can view your data as of that minute for the month. So you can view it by day and everything else. So at least even the fact that they're capping me, at least I know it, and they give me an easy way to make sure I'm staying under that cap. Plus, 500 gigabytes a month, let's face it. Who's ever going to use that? I've tried to use that much data a month, and the most I've ever done is 480. So, that's a lot of data.
Well, and here's my issue with throttling in general. And I agree with you completely, Chuck. Let me know. Just be transparent. It's going to be 5 gigs if you're on mobile, 500 if you're on Cox or whatever it is. Quit turning me off. That's not throttling. That's turning me off. You can call it network optimization, but if I go from 4G speeds, like what you did, Fred, down to 1K, you can't do anything at all. I mean, you can barely make a phone call on that if you're doing some type of data call. But you can't do anything with it. You cannot check an email. You definitely can't go on any type of social media, check anything with an image or a video. It turns you off. Like, there's got to be a way to, if you want to talk about throttling, pull me down to 3G, pull me down to somewhere else where I slow me down but don't turn me off. And that's what really gripes me. I paid you for our agreement of service for this month of being whatever it is, and don't turn me off because I used your service. If that makes sense.
Nope, I understand.
I just hate Verizon and Windows. That's all.
Well, while we're on the subject of bandwidth, should we talk about the Apple CDN that they're rolling out?
Yes, and before you do that, let me go ahead and just remind everybody, all of our viewers that are watching, we are, of course, live, and this will be simulcast and all that kind of stuff on our YouTube page and our G Plus page, and also at the conclusion of this, it will be posted in its entirety on our YouTube and Google Plus page as well. But the question and answer is open. The Q&A is open, so if you have a question for us while we're live, please go ahead and type it in there. Also, you can do it on the event page as well. But if you've got something you want us to discuss, or you got something to add to anything that you hear us talking about, please go ahead and put it in there, and we'll be keeping an eye out on that. All right, back to you, Chuck.
All right, so Apple CDN. News came out this week that Apple is kind of rolling their own CDN. I guess they've been spending a lot of money to roll out their own CDN. For those of you who don't know, CDN stands for Content Delivery Network. Basically, it's how you get the stuff to you. So, for example, let's say I'm a Mac user. I've got to download the latest OS 10 Yosemite. Okay, well that's 6 gigs of data that somehow has to get from the Apple data center in Cupertino or wherever they've got their data centers at to me here in Kansas. So how does that happen? Well, with a traditional network, it's getting routed all over the U.S. through different CDNs. L3, Level 3 is a very popular one. Akamai is a very popular one. And so what that is that's the actual physical networks that's running the physical cables that are in the ground running between different stations to get it to you. So Apple is at the mercy of L3, for example, who has their servers in, say, like Verizon data centers, Comcast data centers, things like that. So if I'm a Comcast customer and I'm getting things from Apple off of, say, the L3, then the L3 servers are right in the Comcast data centers, which means I'm basically getting point-to-point as fast as you possibly can get the data. So what Apple is doing is essentially, instead of relying on someone else now, they now control the fiber. They now control the physical cables from their data centers to yours. Now they still are, renting some data centers and they're buying some of the spectrum from L3 and some of the cables from L3. But essentially, what this means is that Apple is able to control from their data center straight to your computer. From end to end and as fast as they possibly can do it. Apparently, they have 10 times the capacity now of what they actually need, so they've pretty much future-proofed it. They're not rolling everything over to their CDNs yet, but it looks like the OS 10 and iOS updates are all going to come through their new CDN. So you should see huge, huge speed increases. With them doing this, so them having the servers in the Verizon data centers, the Cox data centers, those kind of things, you should see massive speed improvements. When you're basically getting whatever from Apple's on those new CDNs, it's basically the least amount of hops to get it from their data center to you. So it's a pretty big deal for them. I think they said that they've spent like $100 million over the last year to get this infrastructure in place, and it's a big cost, but it's a huge deal for Apple to be able to control that. It's going to be nice for them to be able to kind of control their own destiny from point to point.
Well, I don't want to lose anybody because you know me, ones and zeros. You can lose me. I'm not the smartest person here. This isn't like a Cox or a Comcast. This isn't an internet service provider that gets all of the data to me. It's just Apple's information to me quicker because it doesn't have to go through like 17 different places. It goes pretty much from Apple to, like I'm with Charter, it goes Apple to Charter to me.
Yep.
Just on Apple through 17 different things to me.
Exactly. So Apple in the main Charter data center, Apple would potentially have a server there so that there is no hops to get to you. It is from the Charter data center straight to you. There's no hops in between.
All right, so why spend so much money on that does anybody else do this?
Themselves, well, probably. I mean, I'm trying to think off the top of my head if anyone does. I mean, the biggest providers of CDNs for basically every business right now is Level 3. L3 is a huge one. They do like Netflix. those kind of things. So most companies, because they don't want to invest in the infrastructure, they pay someone else, like L3 or I'm trying to think of who the other one was, and I can't think. Akamai. Akamai is another popular one. So basically, 10% of Akamai's revenue a year was Apple. And I think L3 was about the same amount. So, yeah, you're talking big numbers here. So why would Apple want to do it? Well, they're no longer at the mercy of negotiating with someone else for bandwidth.
Okay.
So instead of having to negotiate with not only L3, but also Verizon, now they just negotiate with Verizon because they own all the fiber from there to there.
Now, is this just going to be for OS downloads and software updates, or are they going to be using the same infrastructure for some kind of media content delivery?
That's a good question, and at this point it's kind of only speculation. Right now, supposedly, it's only going to be for OS and iOS updates and downloads for now. Now, obviously, they plan to move more stuff over to it. As far as what, that's anyone's guess.
Well, yeah, like, are you talking like an Apple TV type thing, Fred?
Potentially, or streaming music, or whatever the case may be.
I mean, that would make sense to me. You spend a whole bunch of money just to deliver downloads a little quicker, and I know money drives the whole thing, but yeah, I mean, why not? Especially if you're kind of in charge, I say yeah. But I don't know. I'm not smart. We know this.
Well, it would be smart of them to move over their digital distribution of stuff to this CDN, but at the same time, they just paid all this money to roll it out. I mean, obviously you could. I'm sure it's tested, but at the same time, you don't just want to all of a sudden throw all your apples into one barrel and assume that it's going to work, because there could be problems. Who knows what happened, with the build out of this. So kind of putting your more non-critical stuff, like let's say OS updates, iOS updates, where, okay, if they're a little bit slower, no one's going to really care. But if I'm trying to download, the latest whatever movie, and it's going dog slow, then I care.
Right.
So, the L3 and the Akamai is proven to work right now pretty quickly. So, put your less important stuff onto your new CDN, give it some time to see how it works, and then start moving stuff over.
That makes sense. All right. So, does you see it a lot, especially with Netflix being throttled, is what you see in the news, the net neutrality and all that kind of stuff. Is any of this related?
Well, yeah, so it is kind of related, actually. So, we talk about these direct pipes into the data center to get to you. So, Verizon owns the data center. For example, if you're a Verizon customer, or if you're a Comcast customer, for example, Comcast owns that data center. So, if you don't want to pay the piper, as the expression goes, then certainly they could network optimize things, and all of a sudden, Netflix is slower. Although Comcast Verizon swears they weren't doing anything. Miraculously, as soon as Netflix decided to pony some money up, oh look, that L3 bandwidth just suddenly went through the roof for Netflix. It plays exactly into that. Instead of having to negotiate with both L3 and Verizon, now Apple can just negotiate with Verizon.
Gotcha. Man, that's crazy. I mean, honestly, there's all this stuff that goes on behind the scenes that nobody pays attention to. I just think, there's a download, cool. Now I've got it on my phone or on my computer, but there's a few more steps in between them and me, isn't there?
Yeah, no one really thinks about that until all of a sudden it doesn't work.
Exactly. And now, why can't I get my stuff? Exactly right. Quite interesting. And I've got something, we'll come back to it. Just remind me to come back to, we were talking about Verizon and T-Mobile and all that kind of stuff. Just kind of hit my head, so you guys help remind me if we've got time later in the show. I do want to discuss something that we've tried out here at the house. It's kind of been working for us. But I don't want to get us off track. So just help me because I don't remember well. And then Fred, you've been gone for a little bit, but share with us a little bit what's going on in your life, and then what's going on just in the tech world that you've been doing some articles about, and also just been observing and all that kind of stuff. I know you've got plenty to share, so share away.
Thank you. My life, not too much excitement. My son's 17th birthday today, so we had a little celebration here. But
Well, tell him happy birthday.
Will do. You can probably see, but I don't think he's watching the show. So I'll have to pass the good wishes on to him when we're offline. So here's an interesting thing that I've been following a few stories on. I have a bit of an interest in artificial intelligence, and the latest and greatest and coolest stuff seems to be in an area that's known as deep learning. And Google has been way out in front in deep learning field, if you will. And basically what the idea of this, and there's been a lot of research coming from different directions, but as kind of a general theme of artificial intelligence, the idea is to create machines that act like the human brain does. So the idea is to create something that can actually learn. So they build systems that they call neural networks. Systems of computers connected together. It can be multiple computers. It can be hundreds or thousands of machines putting processing power together. And the logic behind these kind of things is to give them the ability to recognize data and learn what to do with it. Now, I haven't penetrated too far into the algorithms and the logic that goes behind these things, but some of the, interestingly, although it's been Google that we've been hearing about with all kinds of AI stuff, ranging from search technology to mapping technology to driverless cars and so on, kind of the one of the coolest things that has come up in recent weeks has actually come out of Microsoft, who has put together something that they're calling Project Atom. And Project Atom is Microsoft's deep learning excursion, if you will. And what they've been able to do is put together a system that has been able to sort through an enormous amount of images. And this kind of follows something that Google did a couple of years ago, where they took a network of 16,000 computers, did what many people do. They turned it loose on the internet and did what many people do, which was that they pointed it at a vast amount of pictures of cats, thumbnails from YouTube videos, and they gave it a list of 20,000 parameters, qualities that the cats could have about them. And going through, after days of processing over 16,000 computers, billions or a billion connections, the system was then able to recognize cats, types of cats, breeds of cats, and so on. So the thing that came out last week was Microsoft's project, and they used ImageNet, which is a huge repository of images, vast numbers of types of images, tens of thousands of images. And what they did was they gave it, this time they turned it loose on pictures of dogs, and it performed absolutely brilliantly. What it was able to do was not only learn to recognize that an image, a scanned image, was in fact a dog. It could identify breeds of dogs, but it could go even a step further. It could not only identify that a particular picture was a Welsh Corgi, for example, but it could tell the difference between what county of Wales the Corgi Corgi's lineage came from. It could tell the difference between a Pembroke Welsh Corgi and a Cardigan Welsh Corgi, which is apparently something that not even too many humans can recognize. This is the kind of technology where the results are actually even surprising the guys that are behind it. And this is where it gets a little kind of science fiction-y and kind of eerie, is that they don't actually, the programmers and the designers behind this thing, these systems, don't actually tell the system how to recognize the parts of the dog or the trait. They give it the parameters, traits, the logic, recognize the body of a dog, recognize the fur, but they don't give it the information. It sorts through the information itself and somehow learns how to. The more that it works, the more that it learns. It gets smarter as it goes, and
Creepy.
The theorists and the designers don't exactly know how it's doing what it does. So they're kind of comparing it to quantum physics in the early 20th century, where the phenomena were observed, but they did not yet have the understanding of what they were observing. Practice was actually ahead of theory, and that seems to be where we are now. They can set this thing up, they can turn it loose, and it performs better than you might expect it to. And the folks that build it don't really know what it's going to do next or how smart it's going to get. So I don't know if we're up to the machines outsmarting their builders yet, but we're in an interesting kind of position here where the theory and the understanding of it is a little bit behind the practice, a little bit lagging behind development and understanding wise.
Wow. So I, for one, welcome our future overlords. Offer my services to anyone that needs it. No, that's weird though. That's pretty cool though. I mean, seriously, like it's, I don't know. Yeah, very science fiction-y, like what you're talking about. Like, you know, it's when does the uprising begin?
But what's crazy to me about this is that, quantum theory, people are seeing things but couldn't explain it, but like you can't go in and read the code of the quantum stuff you're looking at. But you can go in and read the code of this image processing and neural networks and learning. But the fact that you still can't explain why it's, better as it is processed, that's a little bit scary, I'll be honest with you. It's, it's kind of scares me a little bit.
Well, yeah, I mean, honestly, and not just to be like, weird or nothing with it, but when the people that made it can't explain it, it's weird. It's honestly kind of creepy.
But I mean, this is the same technology, or I guess, is it, Fred, the same technology that, like, I can go on Google and search for, Google, what was it, a few months ago, their big thing was, oh, you can search your pictures for cats, and we'll return to you any pictures that have cats in it. I assume, is this the same technology that allows them to do that kind of stuff?
I would imagine that it's similar technology, image recognition. And so forth. Google image recognition is pretty good from what I've seen if it finds an exact match. If I take a photo off the internet, which has circulated and is out there in various places, Google can recognize it. If I give it my own photos, it typically doesn't know what it's looking at, and then it comes up with suggestions, which are typically just seem to be color matched. That the color composition of the picture seems to match whatever I provided. But this Microsoft thing is worlds ahead, and in the news just yesterday was Twitter purchased a startup, image search startup called MadBits, which has also got its feet in the deep learning realm. So. Of course, Twitter has obvious motivation to try to keep up with the other guys, and certainly they've got enough images floating around in their repositories at this point to give them an interesting database to play with. But it looks like they're looking to get into the power end of image search as well.
Well, all right, Fred, answer me this. And now, I mean, granted, it's really, really stinking cool, but to what end? Why have we invested all this for dog and cat pictures? I mean, it's awesome that they can tell what county it's from, but what's the bigger picture, I guess? Do you know?
Well, dogs and cats, I would assume, are proof of concept, but just see that it works. But where does it go next is anybody's guess. Facial recognition, obviously, is a big thing for security and espionage and what have you, but what can you do with it further down the line? Possibilities are limitless, right?
Okay, so you're looking more facial recognition, human recognition more than just image, just parsing an image. Is that what you're saying?
I know human recognition is a practical application in place now, being used by everyone from Facebook to CIA and so forth, but I would imagine that there's a world of other applications as well.
Sure, of course. It's just, I mean, it's really neat, especially since it's learning. I guess it would learn it would know when I shave versus when I'm wearing my beard and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of cool. Very, very interesting. So what else is going on with you, Fred? Is that kind of consuming you right now? Your preparation for your future overlord?
Well, we're always preparing, aren't we? Actually, someone's blog post on that subject. This goes back, I guess, a week, 2 weeks ago. Someone linked it to a Twilight Zone episode in which a tribunal was held to declare the protagonist, if you will, of this episode was declared as irrelevant and outdated because he not only read books, but he was a librarian, and books were no longer relevant in that world. So yeah, it could be. Is it a move towards the overlords? I don't know if we're going that far yet, but
right.
These machines are getting smarter as they go.
Yeah, it seems like so far we're still in charge and we're still in control, so that'll work. But talking about you, you brought up the Twitter bot Madbits. Twitter's been in the news a little bit about some stuff with airlines. Chuck, I know you got something you wanted to share about. Personal story, just some other observations between Twitter and airlines in general. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I guess it should come as no shock to people that pretty much anyone can figure anything about you online. So the story on Twitter was that I guess there was I believe it was a gentleman who was having some issues with a Southwest person at the gate to get onto their flight, and I guess they tweeted a very dissatisfactory tweet about that experience, and then of course they went and they got on their Southwest flight like anyone else would do. Well, I guess they were asked to get off the flight and then delete the tweet because I guess Southwest didn't like whatever the tweet was. Now, I don't know the whole story. It's always he said, she said kind of deal. But it's a little bit scary that someone could tweet about something, and the fact that the airline had to have been within 5 or 10 minutes was able to capture that tweet. Now, I don't know what the tweet looked like. Maybe they tweeted Southwest directly. Maybe they used a hashtag that Southwest was able to pick up on. But even if not, somehow Southwest was able to pick up on this tweet, know who it was, know that the person was in this airport, and then on that flight to be able to actually go get them off the flight. Now, even if Southwest was able to figure out who this person was, the fact that they were able to link all that information to a flight in an airport and a seat number is a little bit scary if you think about it. I mean, if it always goes back to if Southwest can do it, imagine what the NSA can do then.
Well, just I pulled up the story while we were talking, and it's not so much the tracing and tracking technology there, because apparently the guy did tweet specifics about the rude agent at the particular airport and the gate numbers. So this was a particular issue, and he went after one particular person who I would have to imagine that if Southwest Airlines management was monitoring the Twitter account, that must have come down very quickly on the young lady who gave him a hard time.
Okay.
The tweet was, "Wow, rudest agent in Denver."
Okay. So there was some specifics on it then. But I'll give you a personal story that is a lot less specific and a lot more scary. So Alvie and I talked about this last week before the show had started. And so a few weeks ago, I had to take a flight to the East Coast for some business. And so I flew through Chicago. And I hate flying to Chicago. Despise it. There's always delays. There's always issues. Well, sure enough, got to Chicago, and everyone boards this plane, and then all of a sudden, 5 minutes later, we're all getting off the plane for whatever issue. So of course I wasn't very happy about it, and so I tweeted American Airlines. I was like, American Airlines not very happy with the delays here in Chicago. Are we ever going to find another flight? And that's all I tweeted. Okay, now mind you, I did tweet American Airlines directly, so I did actually tweet at them directly. American Airlines is actually shockingly able to give you a lot of information on Twitter. Like, I've tweeted them before, like, hey, flight number blah 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 showing is delayed. Any idea like what the ETA on it is? It, and they respond back. They're pretty cool about that kind of stuff. But where this gets a little bit scary is the fact that the person was able to tweet back, hi Chuck, flight number such and such at gate number blah 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 is showing as an hour delay. This such and such and such. Now, mind you, I didn't tell them flight numbers. I didn't tell them gates. I just said I was a little bit disappointed with the fact that I was delayed in Chicago. Okay? And I didn't even give my name. Now, of course, my Twitter has my name. But it's a little bit, I don't know if it's, scary or whatever, that American Airlines was able to take just my Twitter profile information and the fact that I said I was in Chicago and be able to link me up to a flight number and a gate number in Chicago. So to me, that was a little bit scary, personally. I think the fact that they were able to garner all that information just from the fact that I had tweeted them. To me, it's kind of scary. I mean, of course, maybe I was the only Chuck Haines flying out of Chicago that day, so they were able to do it. But then again, my flight would have said Charles Haines by my real name. But I guess you can probably infer that. But still, a little bit scary, I think, the fact that, these airlines really are able to, and I'm sure everyone else is able to really, really get some information out about you from very little information, that you actually put out on a tweet, for example.
Well, and you even said that they were giving you information before the flight attendants, right?
Yeah, so that was actually shocking, is the fact that, so on that same trip, of course, we got on the first plane, got off the first plane, then we got on a second plane, and as we're on the second plane, everyone's sitting down, all of a sudden my phone buzzes, and my phone buzzed and told me that there was another hour delay on the flight. Now, mind you, this was an hour delay on a flight where everyone's already on the plane, and the flight attendant hasn't told us anything yet. So American Airlines was able to tell me about a flight delay before the flight attendants even knew about the delay. Which I guess is just the speed of light these days.
Yeah, and hopefully they sent the plane in general that information the same time they did you.
I would hope so. I'm sure that I would venture a guess the captain was probably getting the information the same time I was, because it wasn't very long after that the flight attendants had announced that we were getting off of that plane as well. Wow,
crazy. Yeah. We focus so much on privacy and all that kind of stuff. If you're online, they have most of your information, I think. Not to be scary or anything, but the information's out there, so don't be too concerned. But let's get back to this tweet that happened. Reading the headline, the dad tweets that a flight attendant's rude and gets kicked off the plane. And Tony, our co-host that's usually here, He's not with us today. Obviously, you don't see him down there in the ribbon. He'll be hopefully joining us on another episode. He's away this week. Hey Tony, if you're watching, I'm pretty sure you are. We miss you, bud. But he did make a good point that the reason that the family got pulled off, not so much that calling them rude, but it was more of a protecting an employee's privacy because they mentioned names and gate numbers and things like that. What's your thoughts, Fred, on that?
Well, you have kind of a sticky situation here. Somebody got what he perceived to be bad service, and kind of time-honored traditions are that if you get bad service, you do one of two things: you complain to the management, or you threaten to go public with it. One of two things happens. Then you go to the management, and management takes appropriate actions if a person has acted inappropriately. The other idea is you go public with something, you complain, and typically then the company, the individual, whoever it is, out of embarrassment is compelled to do the right thing. But you've got a few separate issues here. One is the issue of free speech. Should the guy be able to complain about the service he got and not get punished or vengeance about it? Then on the other hand, we have to consider that in a customer service type situation, these employees are under tons and tons of pressure from their management and risk disciplinary action if there are excessive complaints about them. Jobs could be at risk, and then as Tony is pointing out in the Q&A right now, there's an issue of the employee's privacy. So he actually gave the employee's name, the location, which gate in the airport, and does then that put that person at risk of public backlash, etc. So difficult to say, and I haven't gotten far enough into the story to determine whether it was company management that demanded the guy get off the plane, or was this an employee at the gate there acting independently?
And that is a good question. I don't remember. Chuck, do you remember who pulled him off?
No, and I don't know if they were specific enough in the article to actually say who it was. If it was management, it's one thing, but if it was the group of employees, one of which he had tweeted about, that's a whole different thing. Yeah. But the other thing, protecting privacy, I mean, sorry, Tony, but I think that's a load of crap. Let's face it, okay? Let's take a couple examples and tell me how this is any different. Let's say I'm a food critic, I write for a newspaper, I go to a restaurant, and I write about the awful service I had by this waitress named Tim, waiter named Tim, okay? How is that any different that I published that in a paper as opposed to I tweeted out about an awful customer service agent and this was their name? Or how's that any different from an article writing something about a police officer who decided to illegally search someone's car? I mean, how are any of those any different? I don't think that they are.
Well, like the waiter, you've got an employee here who is in the public eye, and I deal with people in business, in collections, and in back office at companies that I have to do business with, where they'll only give me a first name on the phone and no direct extension to contact them back. And I understand that they're basically there just functioning as an agent of the company. They're anonymous. The calls are monitored so they can be watched internally and so forth. But they don't want complaints coming back from me to them. They don't want me calling them back and so forth. But now this is somebody who's out there on the front lines. And just like the waiter, their job is to be out there and interact with the public. So we didn't expose someone, we didn't out someone who's working in a back office somewhere in a sub-cellar or in an ivory tower and give away their secret identity. This is somebody who's out there dealing with people on a daily basis, and that's their job, is to is to serve the public and interact with the public, and if they're doing a rude job about it, I think they're at risk of having people find out that they were rude. They did it in public, so I think to publicly potentially be rude. Now I don't know what they actually did, what they said, who was right, who was wrong, but if you're out there in public talking and doing stuff, you have to expect to be quoted and commented on.
Well, and Tony brought up, the fact of print is libel. Libel, I think that's how it's pronounced. So I guess it all goes back to, was the tweet based in truth? If it was based in truth, then no, it's not libel at all, because it was exactly what happened, and your dissatisfaction with what happened. Now, if he put some lie in there like, oh, this customer service agent spit on me, or just for an example, something like that obviously was not true at all, then yes, that is libel. But so I guess what was the tweet exactly what happened or not, I don't have any idea. So I guess that would be the difference there is, was it a true account of what happened and the fact that he was just dissatisfied with it, or did he embellish a little bit, maybe make a little bit up of what happened?
Well, and I read the article up again just to refamiliarize myself. The flight attendant stopped him. The gate agent requested him to be removed from the plane. He got off of the plane with the family, and they sat there and watched him delete the tweet. Once the tweet was deleted, he was allowed to enter the plane, what do you guys think about that?
I would have said, "We'll call your management," because I'm not deleting the tweet. I'm a big, free speech kind of guy, and it goes both ways. Believe me, I've heard a lot of stupid free speech that I don't agree with. But at the same time, part of the reason we live here in the U.S. is supposed free speech. As long as we're not, defamation of someone's character, meaning I'm not saying something against someone that's not true and slandering them for something that's not true. If I'm speaking the truth, just because you don't like it, tough, Well,
that's really what the free speech that's protecting you. You don't need to be protected from the stuff everybody likes. It's the crazy weird stuff that's maybe not liked as well that you need protection from.
Yeah. And it's that line though. I mean, like you said,
yes.
It's that line of it's got to be the truth to be protected under free speech. If you're just telling a bunch of lies, well,
yes, absolutely, absolutely. Cool. Hey, I just realized it's after midnight, so Fred, your son's birthday is over. It's my birthday.
It is. I just got the notification. Happy birthday, Alvie.
There we go. We lasted long enough to see your birthday.
Yeah, to another one. Absolutely, that's fantastic. So hopefully we can end a little lighter. We got kind of heavy there with the airlines thing. But interesting stuff. Thanks, Fred, for sharing all that you did about the Project Adam and all that kind of stuff. Thanks, Chuck, for enlightening me on ones and zeros, as you always do every week with the CDM with Apple and all that kind of stuff. But that just about wraps it up. Do you guys have any other closing arguments before we close out of here?
No, I rest my case here. You're a witness, Chuck.
Yeah, no, I'll only say that I'm actually looking forward to some of the stuff coming from Microsoft. The Project Cortana that they're working on with their Windows Phone. It's pretty cool. I'd actually like to get my hands on a Windows Phone to try it out and talk about it one week, because if it does half of what their commercials say it does, it might actually be better than Google Now, and I love Google Now.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see it in practice. I know some of our guys here at Tech Dissected, or at least one of them, has a Windows Phone. I know somebody with one who maybe I can get my hands on it and play around with it a little bit. So maybe we can bring it on a future episode of BOATT. But for now, that ends this episode of BOATT. Those are our thoughts, but we'd love to hear yours. Leave us a comment down below. Also, let us know what you'd like to hear us talk about. If you'd like to see us add any other guests to a future episode, leave that in a comment down below. Check out some of our other videos while you're here. And but for now, that ends this episode of BOATT. This boat has set sail, you can see us fading off into the sunset. Thank you so much, Chuck. Thank you so much, Fred. We will see you guys next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you.